Hello, and welcome to Speak Learn English Easy. I'm here with you today, and I'm absolutely excited to share this breakthrough lesson about the most common English learning frustration, understanding everything but struggling to speak, and the proven solution that will transform you from a passive listener into an active, confident speaker. Picture this moment. You're watching an English movie without subtitles, understanding every conversation perfectly. You feel proud and confident about your English abilities. But then, a native speaker asks you a simple question like, "What did you think of the movie?" And suddenly your mind goes blank. You understand the question perfectly, but you can't form a coherent response. You mumble a few words and feel frustrated thinking, "Why can I understand everything, but can't speak naturally?" Today, that passive understanding becomes active speaking ability. That silent comprehension becomes confident communication. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand exactly why your brain can receive English but struggles to produce it. And, more importantly, you'll have a proven speaking solution method that transforms passive learners into active speakers. Many English learners tell me, "I can understand English movies, podcasts, and conversations perfectly, but when I try to speak, nothing comes out naturally. I know the words in my head, but I can't access them quickly when I need to speak. I feel like I have two different English levels, advanced understanding, but beginner speaking." If this sounds exactly like your frustration, don't worry. You're absolutely not alone, and today we'll bridge this gap completely. Why does this understanding speaking gap exist? Because understanding and speaking use completely different parts of your brain and require different types of practice. When you understand how your brain processes language differently for input versus output, you can use specific techniques that transform passive knowledge into active speaking ability. Before we learn this game-changing speaking solution, let me explain our proven easy learning method. We're using progressive activation techniques that systematically move your English from passive storage to active availability. Because speaking fluency requires training your brain to access language quickly and automatically, here's exactly how our method works today. First, I'll explain each activation technique clearly, showing you exactly how to move from passive understanding to active speaking. Second, you'll practice each technique out loud, feeling your passive knowledge become active speaking ability. Third, when I say now, you repeat. You'll engage in speaking practice that trains your brain for automatic language production. Fourth, don't worry about perfect fluency immediately. Focus on activating the English you already understand but can't yet speak naturally. Remember this speaking truth. You already know more English than you can speak. You just need to activate it. Your understanding proves you have the knowledge. These techniques will help you access that knowledge quickly when speaking. Even if activation feels slow at first, each practice session builds automatic speaking ability. What makes this lesson special is that we're not learning new English, we're unlocking the English you already understand and making it available for confident speaking. This is activation training, not vocabulary building. Ready to transform your passive English into active speaking power? Let's begin this activation journey together. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a complete speaking solution method that bridges the gap between understanding and speaking forever. Sakao 1. Why you can't speak what you understand? Let's first understand the science behind this common problem, so you can choose the right solution techniques. Your brain processes language differently when receiving understanding versus producing speaking. Understanding is passive recognition, but speaking requires active recall and construction. Passive storage when you learn through reading and listening only. English gets stored as passive knowledge that you can recognize but not readily access for speaking. Solution Technique 1. Active repetition transforms passive listening into active speaking by repeating everything you hear out loud. Example: when I watch English videos, I'll pause and repeat key phrases. Active repetition moves knowledge from passive storage to active availability. Now you repeat. Active repetition builds speaking power. Solution Technique 2. Shadow speaking. Speak simultaneously with audio, copying rhythm and intonation to train automatic speech production. Example: I'll speak along with podcasts, copying the speaker's rhythm. Shadow speaking develops automatic speaking fluency. Now you repeat. Shadow speaking develops fluency recognition. vs recall recognition. Understanding is much easier than recall speaking. You can recognize words when you hear them, but struggle to recall them when you need to speak. Solution. Technique 3. Recall practice regularly. Practice retrieving words and phrases from memory without prompts. Example. I'll describe my day using only English from memory. Recall practice strengthens my ability to access words when speaking. Now you'll repeat. Recall practice strengthens speaking. Solution technique for translation challenges. Practice translating your thoughts from your native language to English to build instant recall ability. Example. I'll translate my thoughts into English throughout the day. Translation challenges build automatic language access. Now you repeat. Translation builds automatic access. Speed of access understanding happens at normal speech speed, but producing language requires much faster mental processing and word retrieval. Solution technique 5. Speed building. Gradually increase the speed of your speaking practice to match natural conversation pace. Example. I'll start speaking slowly, then increase speed gradually. Speed building develops natural conversation pace. Now you repeat. Speed building develops natural pace. Perfect. You now understand why passive learning creates the understanding speaking gap and have 5 powerful techniques to bridge it. Excellent work. You're doing wonderfully. Can you feel how these techniques specifically target the gap between understanding and speaking? You're not just learning speaking tips, you're training your brain to activate the English you already know. Now let's learn the core speaking activation method that transforms passive listeners into confident speakers. Sessão 2. TAGI Speaking Activation Method. This is the complete system for moving your English from passive understanding to active speaking ability. Internal activations. Start by activating your English internally before attempting external conversation. Technique 6. Mental conversations. Practice full conversations in your head, using English you understand but haven't spoken. Example. I'll have imaginary conversations about my interests in English. Mental conversations prepare my brain for real speaking. Now you repeat. Mental conversations prepare speaking. Technique 7. Self-talk practice. Narrate your daily activities in English to transform passive vocabulary into active usage. Example. I'll describe what I'm doing throughout the day in English. Self-talk practice activates passive vocabulary naturally. Now you repeat. Self-talk activates vocabulary. Technique 8. Thought translation. Translate your random thoughts into English to build automatic language production. Example. When I think I'm hungry, I'll immediately think it in English too. Thought translation builds automatic English thinking. Now you repeat. Thought translation builds automatic thinking. Practice speaking out loud in safe environments before attempting real conversations. Technique 9. Mirror practice. Speak to yourself in the mirror to build confidence and fluency without social pressure. Example. I'll practice introducing myself in the mirror daily. Mirror practice builds speaking confidence safely. Now you repeat. Mirror practice builds confidence. Technique 10. Recording practice. Record yourself speaking to identify areas for improvement and track progress. Example. I'll record myself describing my weekend plans. Recording practice helps me hear my improvement objectively. Now you repeat. Recording practice tracks improvement. Technique 11. Reading aloud. Read English text out loud to connect written knowledge with spoken production. Example. I'll read news articles aloud to practice pronunciation and flow. Reading aloud connects understanding with speaking. Now you repeat. Reading aloud connects understanding with speaking. Interactive activation. Apply your activated English in real conversations and interactions. Technique 12. Question preparation. Prepare answers to common questions you understand but struggle to answer spontaneously. Example. I'll prepare answers to tell me about yourself before social situations. Question preparation builds confidence for real conversations. Now you repeat. Question preparation builds conversation, confidence, wonderful. You now have the complete three-phase activation method that systematically transforms passive understanding into active speaking ability. Let me share an inspiring transformation story that perfectly illustrates this speaking solution method. My student Lisa had been watching English TV shows and movies for years, understanding complex plots and subtle humor perfectly. She felt confident about her English comprehension skills. However, when Lisa moved to Canada for work, she was shocked to discover that she could barely hold basic conversations. She understood everything her colleagues said, but struggled to express even simple ideas. She felt frustrated and embarrassed, thinking her years of studying were wasted. Lisa's breakthrough came when she learned that understanding and speaking require different types of brain training. She began using the activation method we're learning today: mental conversations, self-talk practice, mirror practice, and question preparation. She systematically activated the English she already understood. The transformation was remarkable. Within 2 months, Lisa was confidently participating in meetings, making jokes with colleagues, and expressing complex ideas fluently. She told me, "I realized I always had the English knowledge, I just needed to activate it. These techniques didn't teach me new English, they unlocked the English I already knew." That's the power of the speaking activation method. It doesn't add new knowledge, it transforms existing passive understanding into active speaking ability. Let's continue with advanced activation techniques for complex speaking situations. Sessão 3. Advanced Activation Techniques. These techniques help you activate English for complex discussions and spontaneous conversations. Technique 13. Topic preparation. Prepare vocabulary and phrases for topics you understand but find difficult to discuss. Example, I'll prepare work-related vocabulary before meetings. Topic preparation ensures I can actively discuss subjects I understand passively. Now you repeat. Topic preparation ensures active discussion. Technique 14. Situation rehearsal. Practice specific situations you understand but find challenging to navigate in English. Example, I'll rehearse ordering at restaurants before dining out. Situation rehearsal builds confidence for real interactions. Now, you repeat. Situation rehearsal builds real confidence. Technique 15. Opinion formulation practice, expressing opinions about topics you understand but struggle to discuss. Example, I'll practice explaining my views on current events. Opinion formulation develops complex speaking ability. Now you repeat. Opinion formulation develops complex speaking. Technique 16. Story retelling. Retell stories. You've understood to practice organizing and expressing information coherently. Example, I'll retell movies I've watched to practice narrative speaking. Story retelling organizes speaking abilities. Now you repeat. Story retelling organizes speaking ability. Technique 17. Explanation practice. Practice explaining concepts you understand to develop clear, organized speaking skills. Example, I'll explain my hobbies to imaginary listeners. Explanation practice develops clear speaking organization. Now you repeat. Explanation practice develops clear organization. Technique 18. Debate preparation practice, arguing both sides of issues you understand to build flexible speaking ability. Example, I'll argue both sides of topics I have opinions about. Debate preparation builds flexible speaking skills. Now you repeat. Debate preparation builds flexible speaking. Amazing. These advanced techniques help you activate English for sophisticated discussions and spontaneous conversations. Sessão 4. Spontaneous speaking development. These final techniques help you respond naturally and spontaneously in unexpected speaking situations. Technique 19. Reaction training practice immediate responses to unexpected questions or comments. Example, I'll practice quick reactions to surprising news. Reaction training builds spontaneous speaking ability. Now you repeat. Reaction training builds spontaneous speaking. Technique 20. Interruption practice. Practice jumping into conversations naturally. since understanding when to speak is different from knowing what to say. Example, I'll practice polite interruption phrases for group conversations. Interruption practice builds natural conversation participation. Now you repeat. Interruption practice builds conversation participation. Technique 21. Clarification requests. Practice asking for clarification when you understand most, but not all of what you hear. Example, I'll practice saying, "Could you clarify, ... Single quotes when I need more information. Clarification requests keep conversations flowing naturally. Now you repeat. Clarification requests maintain conversation flow. Technique 22. Filler. Phrase mastery. Learn natural filler phrases that give you thinking time while maintaining conversation flow. Example, I'll use "That's a great question" while I organize my thoughts. Filler phrase mastery maintains natural conversation rhythm. Now you repeat. Filler phrases maintain natural rhythm. Technique 23. Emotional expression. Practice expressing emotions you understand but struggle to convey in English. Example, I'll practice expressing excitement, disappointment, and surprise naturally. Emotional expression makes speaking authentic and engaging. Now you repeat. Emotional expression creates authentic speaking. Technique 24. Cultural bridge building practice. Explaining your culture in English to build confidence in sharing personal perspectives. Example, I'll practice describing my country's traditions in English. Cultural bridge building creates confident personal expression. Now you repeat. Cultural bridges create confident expression. Now let's practice the complete activation method in real scenarios. Passive knowledge. You understand interview questions perfectly when others are interviewed. Activation practice. I'll prepare answers to common interview questions and practice them out loud daily. I'll record myself and improve my responses until they sound natural and confident. Passive knowledge. You understand social conversations but can't contribute naturally. Activation practice. I'll prepare interesting stories about my life and practice telling them. I'll also prepare questions to ask others and practice smooth conversation transitions. Let's practice key phrases. For thinking time. That's a great question. Let me think about that. For joining conversations, I'd like to add something to that discussion. Perfect. You're learning to systematically activate your passive English knowledge for confident speaking in any situation. Here's how to implement the speaking activation method daily. Morning activation, 10 minutes. Mental conversations about your day ahead. Mirror practice with daily introductions, self-talk while getting ready. Midday activation, 5 minutes. Translate thoughts into English practice, explaining what you're doing. Quick topic preparation for upcoming conversations. Evening activation, 10 minutes. Retell something you understood today. Record yourself describing your day. Prepare for tomorrow's speaking. Opportunities weekly. Intensive activation. Choose one complex topic you understand passively. Spend 30 minutes activating it through multiple techniques. Practice until you can discuss it confidently. Congratulations. You've just learned a complete speaking activation method that will transform your passive English understanding into active, confident speaking ability. But more importantly, you've discovered that the gap between understanding and speaking isn't about lacking knowledge, it's about lacking activation practice. This method is no longer just a collection of techniques in your head. It's a systematic solution, a confidence builder, and a bridge that connects your impressive understanding ability with equally impressive speaking ability. Every technique you learn today specifically targets the understanding speaking gap that frustrates millions of English learners. Think about this incredible realization. How do you feel about your speaking potential right now compared to when we started? You probably feel much more optimistic about becoming a confident speaker, right? That's because you now understand that you already have the English knowledge. You just need to activate it systematically. Here's what I want you to do starting today. First, choose 3 activation techniques that feel most natural for your learning style and schedule. Second, implement the daily activation routine, starting with just 5 minutes of morning activation practice. Third, remember that every piece of English you understand is potential speaking ability waiting to be activated. Fourth, track your progress by recording yourself weekly and noticing how much more fluent you sound. Remember this activation truth: the English you understand represents your true language potential. When you systematically activate passive knowledge through these techniques, you don't just improve your speaking, you unlock speaking ability you already possessed but couldn't access. Understanding proves you have the knowledge. Activation makes it available for confident communication. Your speaking journey is about to accelerate dramatically. Every movie you understand becomes speaking practice material. Every conversation you follow becomes activation opportunity. Every passive moment becomes a chance to strengthen your active speaking ability. The difference between learners who understand but can't speak and those who speak confidently isn't language knowledge, it's activation practice. Silent learners have passive storage. Confident speakers have activated access. Now you have the method to join the ranks of confident speakers who can express everything they understand. If this speaking activation method showed you that your speaking potential is much higher than you realized and gave you the tools to unlock it systematically, please subscribe to Speak, Learn English Easy. We make English activation simple and effective so you can finally speak with the confidence your understanding deserves. Leave a comment below. Which activation technique made you most excited about your speaking potential? Write activate if you're ready to transform your passive understanding into confident speaking ability. Thank you for joining me on this activation transformation journey. You're not just becoming a better English speaker, you're unlocking speaking potential that was always there, waiting to be activated. Next week, we'll learn advanced conversation techniques that help you maintain natural discussions once your speaking ability is fully activated. It's going to take your newly confident speaking to an even higher level. Until then, practice activation daily. Celebrate every speaking attempt. And remember, English speaking doesn't have to be mysterious when you have the activation method. Your understanding proves your potential. Now you have the tools to realize that potential fully. Keep activating, keep speaking, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we continue transforming your English from passive knowledge into active communication power.